So, Rango, tell me, listen, welcome to the show.
Yes, hello.
Somebody over here, CARA, is also on the show too. I guess I should say welcome to the show, CARA.
Just taking it all over.
I know. Anyway, I'm just amazed by, obviously we have Rango covered up today because I'll let you introduce yourself as far as, I know you're ex-military.
Yes.
And so why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, and then I'd like to get into really finding out about the mindset of someone like yourself. So why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are a little bit.
Okay, well, I have extensive military background and more like special forces, Green Beret stuff, which was one of the original ones. Now every military has their own special forces, like Navy has Navy SEAL Team 6. They have Delta Force now, which is part of more Army, which is more our anti-terrorist expertise. And then, of course, Force Recon Marines and have Army Rangers, and then Air Force has their own elite crew, and and then of course every country has their anti-terrorist group, like the Mossad for Israel, and New Zealand SAS, Australian SAS, British SAS. Every country, elite commercial country, has a top military experts. Mm-hmm.
The thing is there's so many groups out there, so many elite groups out there. Who is really the best, or is it just is it nuance, and is it just maybe like, am I getting that it's more of a specialty? Because I always thought, for example, the Navy SEALs were like the top elite force out there. Is that true, or do I have it wrong?
No, every military has their elite groups. Like I said, Army and Special Forces. And we have Delta Force, and then Navy has Navy SEALs. That's their anti-terrorist team, which got Bin Laden. So they're all equally trained. I mean, Navy used to start like underwater demolition stuff.
Yeah.
And then they expanded, more. And then Special Forces was kind of air, land, and sea, but they all do it. They're all incredibly phenomenal experts. They can all do the same job.
Is there any animosity between, or competitive animosity or anything like that between the various groups?
Yeah, there is a little bit, but it depends on the mentality of the guys in the team. There's more respect because they appreciate each other's training and advanced training. And because, if you take more Special Forces and Navy SEALs, they've been in the combat quite a bit. They're very, very calm, but just get the job done. The most important thing, they don't get emotional, excited. Totally different than most infantry level conservative troops, because there's extensive training.
Yeah. I often wonder sometimes, I thought to myself, I wonder if I could be in the military or do that. Like again, we'll know more about what you've done, but Rango, I don't know, man. I'm not a pussy or anything unless it benefits me. I'm usually not a pussy, but I don't know if I could do and go to the military and be faced with any kind of confrontation or battle like that. And yet, one of the things I did to test myself very young was I ended up bouncing when I went out of college, because I never had a fight when I was in school, or I never knew what I would do if I was tested. And surprisingly, I found out that I was actually good in when I'm confronted, when I had to be confronted, but just generally. So what is it that makes someone like you want to go to the military? I mean, I know some people go because they need maybe a path to go on. Maybe they're they need some direction. But what makes someone like you want to go not only to the military, but actually to get into something that's even more elite, which I would assume has more danger to it? danger to it. What makes you want to do something like that?
You know, I was always very adventurous as a kid, and I always liked speed and heights and all kinds of stuff. So it's another way to challenge yourself and really push yourself as well. You know, I mean, as you have, you know, in weight training and stuff, you really push yourself and face yourself. We face ourselves against our weakness, fears, and insecurities. You know. And same thing in the military. You have to face yourself because it's life and death situations sometimes.
Yeah.
And of course, not saying you're scared, there's no fear, but I mean, it's still there, but it's under control, you know, and fear sometimes can help you not to do something stupid. You know, it's like that acronym, false evidence appearing real. You know, I mean, we create the fear in our mind. We create insecurity. We create mental blocks in our mind because past issues, the way we were brought up, or anything, you know. And our ideal way in the military is to face those weaknesses and push past them. And it's one of the perfect ways to do that. Of course, there is a detriment because you may die in the end and get killed or something too.
Yeah.
So that's the price you have to pay, though.
So there's always trade-offs for everything. I'm curious. I'll bring CARA in. And do you think that you would have enough nerve to, because there's women in the military now.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And they are at the highest levels, right, Rango?
Yeah.
And so let me ask you, CARA, do you think that you'd have enough balls, so to speak, to go on to an elite group
He's
like
so
that?
stupid.
An elite like that? I mean, could you really do that, seriously?
No, I think that if I had like a passion for wanting to go into the military, yeah, I would have definitely had done something better because I would have wanted to constantly challenge myself. I wouldn't have wanted to be just another soldier there. I would have wanted to test myself, push myself, become better, do better things. And that would have eventually put me in the situation of being more on the front line and doing more risky things. But I would have just wanted that title. I would have wanted that experience. I would have wanted to, you know, be better, like reach my fullest potential in the military. So I would have definitely have done it. Yeah.
So you really think that you could be in the line of fire? I'm being totally honest.
Yeah.
Do you really think that you could be out there?
I wanted to join the military, but I had a kid and then I was going through a divorce and I needed to be there for the kid more than I needed to be going and, you know, fighting in the military.
Might not be appropriate what I'm going to say, but Rango.
Yes.
I was talking over to CARA. Rango,
Yes.
Is it inappropriate? Are women qualified and can they be out there on the front line with the guys?
You know, there's positive and negative to it. Not saying they can't, but you know, men have an affection towards women and want to protect them and stuff. So that could kind of distract from the mission sometimes.
I can see that.
You know, yeah, you know,
because they're friends. You know, your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, but then a woman on top of it makes a man more protective naturally to cover them, and that may detract from the operation, the mission, or something like that.
So do you feel like you're at exposure then if you're out there in the battlegrounds with females in the back of your head like that she's not going to be able to come through, or how does that? If you're being really honest about it, do you think that?
Totally honest, you get a well-trained woman. I mean, for example, you interviewed, remember Kathy Long, the and she is vicious. She is tough as nails. You know, she'll face guys anything, and she's bodyguard quite a bit herself. And you get a woman like that who's got your back covered, very professional and tough on top of it. That isn't a problem. It's just another thing. Like when bodyguarding, if you have a beautiful, attractive client, you can't get involved with the client at all, the actress, whoever you're bodyguarding or protecting, because it takes away your awareness from your surroundings, you know?
Oh, that makes sense.
Sometimes that sex appeal can be attractive that way, and you want to be more protective and watch them instead of watching the crowd more, you know? So it's a little subtle things.
So how do you, and I'm assuming that the training that you both go through, men and women, is it the same training? Are there any exceptions because you're a male and they're going through and they're a female? Or do they have to do the exact same training?
Same stuff. Just like women on a fireman or police, they have to do the same, everything same equally. Yeah. They don't lessen it at all, you know. But then the other negativity is like a woman being captured. You can see, I mean, that's really a weakness to use them to barter with the enemy.
Yeah. Because so it's like, it's not really that you're thinking that they're weaker. It's just how we're created.
Nature.
Yeah. Exactly.
But how about women, Tom? Women have childbearing. I'm assuming that some of these ladies that are in the military, they have kids, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so a woman by nature has a tendency to want to protect like the men do. What makes you think that they don't think about that, like looking at you, even though you're an adult, like their kid?
That's true.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah, it could. Because they have that motherly instinct too.
Yeah.
You know, which is natural, you know. But like I said, it's there's a positive and a negative for it, you know. And I mean, you remember that movie with Demi Moore, G.I. Jane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, then they added a sexual part with that, too, you know, which is actually part of it. If you go to a SEER course, Survival, Escape, and Evasion course, and you actually get captured, I mean, you've got to go through all the torment. Like I went through a SEER course myself, and I was waterboarded myself for practice. And it is tough. Yeah, very tough. There's ways to help you, little tips to survive that. But you can't.
Yeah, why don't you? Yeah, I'm curious about that waterboarding.
Yeah,
they have to go through the actual. I mean, how close do they get you to breaking when they're doing, for example? Because when you're in the heat of the moment, they're not going to make it easy on you.
No.
So how do you train for that shit?
Wait, what is waterboarding?
Why don't you explain to CARA what waterboarding is? Because I really can't tell. I know I've seen it done.
Yeah.
But why don't you go ahead and explain that, Rango?
Okay. Well, you know, you have like a laying in a big tub of water. You're not laying it, but there's a slant board. They do it many different variations, but you're slanted on an inclined board with your head down. They put plastic over your head sometimes, or a bag over your head, and then they keep pouring water on your face so that you feel like when you're upside, you're not exactly upside down, maybe 25, 35 degree is one technique, and they keep pouring water under the bag so you can't breathe. So the worst thing is to panic and try gulping for air because it makes it 10 times worse. You gotta just, I mean, if you can, I'm not saying everybody can do this, is you got to breathe very subtly, not panic at all, and just try to breathe a little bit. And you can't just hold your breath. Sometimes you hold your breath a little bit, then you gasp for more air, and then you panic more. You got to remain very calm and just try to breathe very slowly and subtly, because as soon as you start hyperventilating, panic, you're gulping for more air, and it feels like you're drowning and you're going to die. I mean, it's pretty radical.
So how many times did it take you to learn that properly?
I only did it one time, and I did the best I could. Yeah. Because it's something very hard to practice.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing to me, though. I mean, for you to just basically walk out after doing one, treatment, if you want to call it that, how can you possibly be ready to face that in battle? I say I'm the believer that repetition is the mother of skill. And it's like, if you can't pass this as a military person that's going to be out there potentially facing all this, how is it that they can still put you out there? I don't get that.
Well, I mean, everything's relative, but, there's so many ways to torture somebody. I mean, I've seen all the movies, Electric Shock, ripping your fingernails off, toenails off one at a time. I mean, it's very painful,
This stuff actually happens, right?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Not just in TV?
Yeah, and then, they'll cut each finger off. It depends every culture has got their specialty,
So are they preparing you for some of these things that may happen? Is that what the point is?
You prepare as much for it as possible, but you prepare best not to get caught in the first place.
Yes, of course. That's the number one thing. So how do you not get caught? So how do they teach you to not get caught? Let's say that you're put in a situation and you need to not get caught. What do they teach you?
Okay, for example, that's what this survival, escape, and evasion course is like you're in enemy territory, and you got to be a ninja, and you got to blend in with your surroundings and just become camouflaged, invisible, not just physically but mentally too. And it kind of comes after the Japanese ninja and stuff, who would sneak into a castle, try to assassinate a lord, and they try to become one with the rafters, with the floor, with the ceiling. And even they would try to calm their breath down, their presence down, even calm their heartbeat down, so they couldn't be sensed at all, So it's more than just physical, technical stuff. The mental stuff is most important,
How do you slow your heart rate down when you're excited?
You don't get excited.
I want to know that because I think that could be handy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you do that? When I get ramped up, I start shaking like hell.
First you're breathing. You got to calm your breathing first. Calm your breathing, then you calm your mind like a very calm lake or ocean.
And you can do that. You can do that, like when you go into the heat of the battle. You can start doing that.
You try to do that as best you can, But you can't just panic. Any situation, when you panic, get hysterical. That's the worst thing to do in any situation. At least if you can remain calm, think logically. What is the best thing I can do right now to survive? It could be A, B, or C, and you take it as a priority. Is dodging bullets, staying under cover, whatever, hiding out, burying yourself in the jungle, whatever you have to do it,
What was the scariest thing that you have ever experienced in the military?
Probably dying. No. Coming close to it, yeah.
Did you come close to it? Really?
What's that?
Did you come close to dying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm in an ambush once, and all our other patrols got killed, and me and my partner took off, but they knew somebody was alive. They were still scanning us, so we burrowed ourselves in the jungle, and it's tree canopy jungle, and there are leaves and stuff. And then rebels were coming up, and I could just see him through the leaves because I was buried, me and my friend, completely, and we're trying to become invisible. And he's walking right up, and I thought he was going to kick my foot. And I didn't want to move my foot to show any movement. And I was trying to keep my breathing, my heart rate down. And he just stepped probably 6 inches from my foot.
Oh,
and
man.
Then he passed. Yeah.
I would shit myself. I would.
But I only lost about 10 minutes of my life.
It's unbelievable.
But,
and how many, were you on, did you have so many missions that you went on? And if you did each mission become easier? In athletics, when you first get into a game, especially when you get into a game that's a faster game, like going from college to pro or high school to college, the game is very fast. But then, with repetition being such that the more you do, the more skill you get. Does your being in that military and going to a mission like you were in, does that start slowing down? Can you think differently than you did early on?
Well, here's the advantage. Yeah, like you said, you become more experienced, more efficient, economical, technically, mentally, emotionally, and how to move efficiently and how to protect yourself better. But you cannot get too confident. As soon as we get too confident and we don't check every little point, every little thing, and you get lax at something, that's where life and death happens. If you get lax at checking something or not following through with some procedure, or you push, and sometimes you get too confident and you push the envelope too much. Most time we're like skydivers, and I was on a Halo team. If you push and try to do too many radical things, that's when accidents happen. As long as you stay in the parameters of what's safe, and you can get adventurous and do some radical things, but it's under certain conditions, under scientific conditions and principles that are effective, that work to keep you alive. Whether it's parachuting or anything, you know.
I know there's a hierarchy. I mean, I just watch TV, so I'm guessing. So when I say I know, I say that based on TV shows I watch.
Yeah.
You know,
based on Hollywood,
but based on the movies. So there's a hierarchy. Where were you at in that hierarchy? Were you one of the soldiers? Were you somebody who was the captain, or one of the leaders?
No, I was just on a special forces team. I was a sergeant. You know.
Oh, sergeant. Team. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well. That's the lowest level on the special forces anyway. There's nobody lower.
Oh, there you go.
Well, they have B teams and C teams, which they have PFCs and privates and stuff, but that's more like supply. But see, when you do an operation, like we were talking about, maybe assassination, extraction of people, there's a whole process you have to go through. And the biggest thing is planning. The biggest thing is recon, advanced work, what we call, to make a mission successful. And that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing to do, is to get all the information you have just to work with. Like Sun Tzu, The Art of War, says if you know yourself, you have 50%, your strengths, weakness, you have 50% chance of winning the battle. If you know your enemy, his strengths, weakness, and yourself, you have closer to 100% chance to win the battle or be successful, whatever the mission is.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I have a question.
Yes.
I've heard stories about the children down at the war areas. How they're not all nice? Am I correct?
No.
Dangerous.
Even Vietnam, they trained kids to run up with grenades, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So how was that experience for you? Because I mean, just as any adult, that would be so difficult. But you know that they're the enemy. How did that go for you?
That's very tough. But, when it comes down to it, they train these kids to hate Americans, hate Westerners, hate infidels, whatever. And they like terrorist groups and fundamental groups and their kids, they hate the West. And they're jealous of it, and they hate us with a passion. And, these kids are, in that area, they're just vicious, a lot of them, and they'll do anything. They're programmed, and they see the other thing, the way they program, if they die, that they'll have go to heaven, have 71 virgins or whatever, they'll be in blissfulness. And it's like a honor for them to die, sacrificing themselves for Allah, So they're totally brainwashed, completely different than our kids, Our kids very spoiled and technology, and most of them, some are very tough too. But these kids here are something else,
Did you ever have to face a situation that involved a child?
Yeah, there's a few times in a village and stuff like that, and they'll send their kids out for. How terrible is that to send your kids out in the first place with a grenade or whatever or something, So. But luckily, didn't have to drop them and zap them, didn't have to do anything. But, that's the terrible part if you have to kill a kid, because if you don't kill them, they're going to kill you. But that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's either you or me.
But then what's that kid going to grow up to be?
Yeah.
Another terrorist,
Yeah. It'd be hard to detach from that.
You got to be detached completely,
I think the hardest thing for me, hearing all the stories, stories of all that stuff that you had to go through and everything, it would be so hard because there's some people that are actually nice there and you can't tell the difference. It's not like they're dressed differently, right?
No.
So it's like you literally are watching your back 24/7 and you can't even trust the ones that are acting nice or anything.
Yes. Sometimes they even have people on your team or in your support group that are spies, because they blend right in. That was pertinent in Vietnam. They'd have in base camp and other Vietnamese that were NVA and Viet Cong, and they'd look like they were in your camp helping, and then at the right moment they'd set off a bomb or grenade or kill somebody, as many as they could. So
I think that'd be hard to constantly feeling like I have to watch my back. You can't ever just stop and breathe.
Yeah, it's very hard to relax. But there's another part that sometimes if you get too tense, I went into a country once with me and my friend. You get where you're worried about walking on a trip line or stepping on a bomb or this or booby trap or getting shot. You can't be too tense because you get exhausted mentally and emotionally. And a few days, you got to just say, hey, screw it, the hell with it. It's meant for me to die, but you can't work that way. You know, you got to just relax and surrender to it and be professional, you know.
Yeah. Did you? For me, because I have this mindset already, and I've never been in battle. I've just been in the battle of business, but that's like an apple and an orange compared to what I'm doing in business and what you did on the battlefield.
I don't know.
You know, after being all these years in business and being around people, I don't trust most people. Did you get to the point where obviously you can't trust anybody? I'm assuming. And if that's the case, does that stay with you forever? Does it change your mindset forever?
I was saying, it's a good question. When I got out, one of my teachers, martial art teachers, said, hey, what's the matter? It's obvious. He's very intuitive. I said, you don't trust anybody. I can see it in your eyes. You're suspicious of everybody. Don't forget, these are all your friends here. It's okay. And I realized that. You know, but that's something you have to work on and open back up again, because you become like an armored shield and you close everything off. But then you have to work on that to slowly open your heart and mind that this is okay to trust again, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of the hierarchy, did you ever have a situation, or are there situations that happen where I'm assuming that you have soldiers that go rogue, maybe, but is there ever a conflict because you've got too many? I mean, I would think that the military guys that are out there are all alpha dogs, and is that a problem when you're working in conjunction, like in operation or in team effort?
What do you mean? Like if
everybody's an alpha, nobody wants to take orders.
Oh yeah. Oh no, but
Something
you know
like
what's interesting? You have to have alpha, but you still got to have that chain of command. That's so. I mean, look at any effective group. All martial art groups have a chain of command, seniority, force belts, ranking, mentality. All military ranking, even company corporations have it too.
Yeah.
And that hierarchy is what, if you respect that, of course, you as long as you don't have a leader that's a jerk or an idiot or doing stupid things, like Custer, what happened with Custer and stuff, and as long as you have a good chain of command, I mean, look at like with Patton. Everybody, majority of people loved Patton, even though they thought he was a bastard, but he was tough. But there was a fair part about him too. Any good leader has that balance. And, it's the most important thing is following orders and the mission. And that's what the commander mission statement is to complete that mission successfully, no matter what it takes. So you need that chain of command. You need that hierarchy to make that effective.
Yeah. How long were you in the military?
About 6 years.
Okay. And then you didn't want to stay.
Well, I was approached by a couple mercenary groups because I was in South America too, and to join this mercenary group, but I had to sign a contract 6 years, and I thought, I'll never make it 6 years, maybe 3 years. So I decided to get out.
Okay. And then what did you do when you got out?
What did I do? Actually went back to school and got a degree, and it took my time figuring out what I wanted to do, It's just very hard when you get out and you have such an action-adventure life and on adrenaline, then you come back to society, and you're treated very respectfully, military up to a certain point because you have a specialty. I mean, look at like the Rango movies and stuff too, but when you get out, I mean, it's hard to get a job sometimes, unless you want a job as a assassin or a bodyguard or something like that,
Yeah.
But even bodyguard, my experience, I would much, because you have like martial orders, you have former police, and you have military people. I would rather and lean towards military people hiring as bodyguards than martial orders and former police. I mean, they're all good. It depends on their mentality, but military people are always used to working as a team and taking orders, So,
and as a bodyguard, do you have to work as a team and take orders?
It's just like military, completely, And we were talking earlier, if you want to do any kind of extraction, any kind of to say rescue somebody, or the assassination, or eliminate somebody, the same kind of plan is in order, And what that means, a bodyguard team is the same thing. It's like you want to protect your client at all costs. Of course, the enemy wants to kill your client. Of course, there's different threat levels too, and they're trying to kill your client. So you, as a bodyguard, have to think like an adversary. How would you kill your opponent? When are the voids? When are the gaps? When is he isolated? When is he by himself? Or same thing with assassination or rescuing somebody. You got to figure out all this information when he's alone, when he's isolated, when you can get a shot at him when you're undetected. So say like a sniper shooting a target, a mile away, 500, 200 yards away. The farther you're away, you have more chance to get away. But the closer you are, it's tougher to get away because they're going to come after you,
Mm-hmm.
So the farther away, and then on top of the more you can get your target isolated, it'll take longer before he's even detected that he's shot. That's going to be an advantage. So same thing if you're trying to rescue somebody, you got to get him at a very vulnerable place, an isolated place where he's least guarded, and how are you going to break him out? And what is the plan? So what I'm saying is that when you plan a mission, is the advanced work and recon is the most important. It's 90%. Then what you do is it's steps. What's the planning? What information do you need for either or? Number one. And then the next thing is to find that information out. That's the advanced work beyond the planning and recon. You collect that information. Then it's the strategy part. Then you put together the strategy. How are you going to assassinate that person, get to that target, or how are you going to rescue that person? The strategy. What's the strategy? And then it's the practice. Then you have to practice certain drills to make it very good, efficient, economical. Then it's the extraction. And the most important thing you want to get away, for example, if you want to assassinate somebody and you don't worry about getting caught, like a lot of the terrorists, it's much easier. Or you put, a bomb vest on and you blow yourself up. You don't have to worry about getting caught because you're dead, right? Or you run up to somebody, shoot them, and assassinate him, and you don't care about getting caught. It's 9 times easier to get to somebody that way than to escape successfully and get away with it.
I'm curious to know when you're talking about assassination or extraction, I guess, there's a certain amount of time that's put into that. So are you like surveilling and are you collecting things like information like their tendencies, what time they go eat breakfast, and, seeing if you can get like patterns where they're consistent? Do you have to do stuff like that before is that part of what you're talking about as far as collecting data?
That's all recon stuff. And advanced work to collect it. What are the patterns? What are his cycles? When are his voids? When are he most protected? When is he least protected? All that stuff. That's.
Do you plan for a plan B, like a plan A? You've done all this recon, and then you're going to go out and do your mission. But I'm going to say that not always your mission goes as planned. So how do you modify on the fly? Are you just that good as a team, or is that something learned?
No, it's definitely learned. For example, that's an important point. Churchill, I think, said when you have your perfect plan, but when the first round is fired, the plan goes for shit sometimes, you know. So that's why in the military, you have a contingency plan. Number 2 and maybe 3, maybe at least 1 or 2 backup plans, just in case it goes for shit.
Yeah.
Okay, if this happens, you get blocked, you use this escape route, you use this alternate route, here, whatever, you know. And for example, that's why the recon advanced work is so important. That's where you collect all the information to create other contingency plans. Like, for example, we were talking the other day, like Secret Service, I don't know what they are now, but for example, there's about 4,000 Secret Service. Could be more now, but there's only about 400 or 500 attached directly to the president. Those other 4,000 is more for support. You know, what they'll do when he has a route, they check every room, every building along that route, the rooftops, and they plant some man there. Then it's clear. It's clear. They don't have to, even the manholes, sometimes they'll weld the manholes up so nobody can get down in the manholes or explode a bomb or anything. I mean, they will cover every little detail. It's a lot different than with the Kennedys, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. You know, I went to a fundraiser in Palm Springs. This has been years ago. I got invited there, but before I was able to go, it was one of the former presidents was there. Can't think of his name. Anyway, but
was it Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, it was that far back. But how can I forget his name? Anyway, but no. So they in order for me to go to this fundraiser, they had this Sununu was there and all these VIP people there.
Yeah,
they had to do this big background check on me to make sure that I was okay. But when I was there in the room, they had the Secret Service came in and did just like I was talking about. They went through all the doors and they check everything. I mean, and I hate to be the guy that fucks that up.
That misses one thing.
That misses like, oh shit, I forgot to look there. That'd be horrible. I mean, it could be catastrophic, I guess.
Yeah, totally,
right?
Totally.
Hey, I had one time a guy tell me that I was at a gun show and there was a bunch of military guys there and in a circle they were talking and I was just listening there to these guys. It was very interesting conversations these guys were having. But at some point in the conversation, one of the guys said, you know what? I haven't killed somebody in about 10 days. I'm getting really itchy feet. I need to go kill something. Is that how you get?
No.
So maybe he was just bullshitting. I don't know, but I found that to be really, like, I don't know, telling or shocking or what.
Yeah, you know, I mean, you should, top military guys, I mean, you don't want to have to kill anybody, but you become detached from it. That's part of the mission. Like with Bin Laden when that SEAL Team 6 came in, you know, and the helicopter crash, that's a perfect example. Look what happened. They had to deal with that. They
that
had
was amazing.
Support. Oh, incredible.
That was amazing.
Those guys are just phenomenal, you know.
Yeah.
But they've done the drill over and over so many times, and they had a backup plan, too. What to do if this happened, if that happened, whatever. And, you know, what's interesting is that with Delta Force, they shoot so much. You know, you shoot thousands of rounds. They shoot hundreds of thousands of rounds because they're like terrorist hostage team. Say they come on an airline, bunch of terrorists, they have to kill the terrorists and not the civilians, right?
Yeah.
So they got to be so accurate. And there's a saying, like you'd always tell a Delta Force guys, because this part of his palm had callus on it from holding a weapon so much, you know, and shooting so much, you know.
So they do this like every single day, shooting thousands of rounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, like repetition. That's repetition is the mother of skill. It becomes, I would imagine, it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, instinctive, totally.
Wow. I would think it'd have to.
It'd have to.
Because, I mean, when you're put under pressure with something, you don't even have time to really think.
Yeah, you can't think. The minute you start thinking, you're dead in the water, I would imagine.
Yeah,
but I had a guy tell me one time that he felt a lot calmer when there was bullets flying along, like beside his head. That's when he got really calm compared to just when they weren't flying around his head. Is that true?
Well, it can. It depends on the mentality of the person, you know. I mean, some of these guys, SEAL team commanders and top special force guys, been in combat so much. You know, even the guys in Vietnam, some had 6-8 tours of Vietnam. You could imagine. And they can't be lax. I mean, remember that movie Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Taken after a true story. It was so neat that actor who played the SEAL team commander, when he came in, he had a perfect attitude, very calm, very cool, collected, but he had everything covered. Okay, you do this. Okay, plan A, you go over here, you do this, like he's done it 1,000 times, And that's what makes a really good commander, just being cool under fire. But another thing you got to look at, it depends. When you shoot somebody, that's a totally different experience. I mean, some guys are just vicious out there. They can kill and are natural killers, But that isn't the kind of people you really want. You don't want somebody that likes to kill, You want somebody that does it if they have to, and they can be unattached to it, and then move on to the next mission completely. And, usually it's like a good portion of the public can do that. Then there's a good portion that are in the gray area. They can go right or left, be totally nonviolent, or maybe they can be trained to do that. Then there's another big section, 1/3 or more, that don't want to kill. They won't kill anybody anyway. I mean, there's a theory. There's a guy named Lieutenant Colonel Grossman, wrote a bunch of books on killing. And then there's theories that came out, like with the Civil War, that, what's the average age? Was 16, 18 years old, Civil War, right? Yeah. A lot of kids. So very immature. And a lot of them didn't like to kill. They had to do it. But there would be one guy, one friend, that was a killer, natural killer. So the other 4 or 5 guys would load for him, those muskets, because they took 30 seconds to load, right? And they just handing to him, so he's just shooting one, boom, boom. So he's almost like a semi-automatic. He would work much more efficient and effective that way,
Yeah, yeah.
So it all depends on the mentality of a person,
I know. I think people talk about like, oh, I could kill somebody. Oh, I could kill somebody. Or they get so mad. I mean, I've heard men say this stuff and I'm like, no, but could you really? But could you really? And like, and then could you really live with it afterwards, or does it eat you up alive? So, I mean, I don't know. Have you had to kill some people?
Only bad ones.
Of course, yes. and so, how did you feel after like the very first one? How did that feel?
Life. How do you feel?
Yeah.
I felt really nothing, because I felt like God. I felt relieved, because if I didn't do that, I would have gotten killed. Yeah,
because they're the bad guy.
Yeah, and then I had a friend once. Well, for example, Kara, think about it this way. If you saw some guy hurting your kid, your son or daughter, and viciously, I think you would be more motivated very quickly, and it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's Mother's Earth. I mean, look, what's the most vicious animal? A bear protecting its young, an animal protecting its babies, even a duck, anything.
Well,
I mean, it can be vicious.
They're vicious. Ducks are vicious. That's for sure. I know that.
Yeah.
I feel really bad now. I mean, I think it's because of my own mortality, and my age. But I used to be able to kill like animals and things, even just to hunt. And if I do that now, I feel really bad. I feel bad for them, and I can't do it. No, I'm not kidding.
What?
I have a hard time killing things like flies, or just my mindset's different now. I think it's because I'm closer to my own mortality, or at least my perception is that. I mean, who knows when you're going to die, but at this age now. Hey, when somebody is it's natural killer that you're talking about, have you ever had the somebody that just gets too thirsty and too hungry for, to kill for the sake of it? And do they have to be discharged and like downgraded?
Just deprogrammed, we would call it. Reprogrammed, I mean, it almost like you get somebody like a Rambo character, and he comes in society. I mean, it's so boring,
Yeah.
Compared to what they do, and they have to be reprogrammed to be in society again, in a way.
But let me ask you: if you're so programmed, on one hand, you're saying that some of these military are so programmed. Repetition being the mother of skill, right. And they seem like they have a mindset that's such. Why is it so hard then? And I'm assuming that it's difficult for these military to transition back into civil life because of things that you're saying. So if they're that trained, is it really that difficult to transition if they already have a mindset where they've learned how to do something to be great under pressure?
Wouldn't this be kind of like PTSD?
Why is it so difficult? Is it because of PS?
Yeah, like what causes some of the military men to come out with PTSD and some others to come out completely fine? What is that?
That's a great question. You know what? They found that actually more civilians have PTSD than military guys. All it is just pressure, divorce, losing your parents, losing your spouse, losing your kid, all that stuff, being a shock of combat and stuff, what creates those psychological mental blocks, I mean, when I was at the VA hospital, there's so many guys in certain classes, PTSD classes, God, they hear a muffler go off or a motorcycle, and they just start to freak out because they're so programmed in real combat to react to a loud noise, a gun, explosion, whatever, over again to hide. So it becomes a subconscious mechanism, I mean, I knew one guy, a commander, who I saw inspire me on this Special Forces brochure. It's so funny because when I lived in another city, he ended up moving across the street from me. The guy I saw in a brochure wearing a green beret. It's just amazing. And he was a commander, and he was given a captain commission in the field of Vietnam by General Westmoreland, I believe. And he was great. He'd get up early in the morning. He couldn't sleep. He had insomnia. He couldn't sleep because he never slept hardly in Vietnam because he had to be alert all the way, and he was a captain, So he'd get up and just run for 3 hours and come back. And he was great because then my parents talked to him, and then I met him. They invited me over for dinner, and he had a Thai wife that he married when he was over there. But and he knew every secret mission, every covert operation. Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. But he said he never really got over it. I think eventually passed away, later. But he had PTSD his whole life. And look at Chris Kyle. They did American Sniper, the movie after, He had PTSD, and he was trying to help other guys with PTSD, and that's how he got killed,
So obviously it's like anything else. I mean, it's like being an alcoholic. You can overcome it, but it's always there. Always there. It's like me. I used to smoke cigarettes. Like I was severely addicted. And even though I finally gave it up, I'm one cigarette away from just going off the edge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're, just like an alcoholic, like you said, or drug addict, you've got to be completely detached from it and cold from it completely, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything, because any little tease could start teasing you back into it. And PTSD is very similar that way too,
I would be very hesitant to marry a woman that came back from military and battle. Holy shit. If I say something wrong and she goes off, I'm done. End of marriage. No, it's not a joke.
No,
when something like that happens.
Serious. But what Kara's saying is really interesting. What I saw, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the more somebody can be in battle situations, stressful situations, and remain calm and not overreact and let their body and nervous system overreact to it, the lesser chance you will get it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my theory, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you seem like, I've actually known you for a while, Rango. But you seem like you've adapted pretty well and adjusted pretty well. Is this all a facade? Are you fooling me?
Yeah, see, my disguise.
Who are you really?
Yeah.
No, but you seem like you're very well adjusted.
Well, for martial arts, I was always intrigued with the mystical, the mental part. So from an early age, and before I went in the military, I was a black belt and trained quite a few years already. And I think that really helped me.
Yeah.
Being a black belt, that philosophy, that martial art, Budo, warrior mentality philosophy, which isn't just kill everybody. It's just facing yourself, really.
I think that's an important point, facing yourself. I think that's really it right there.
Yeah,
looking in the mirror and just really being able to face yourself and be able to deal with yourself, I think probably is hugely important.
Yeah, I mean, you too, Lou. I mean, the same thing. When all the bodybuilding you did and training and weight competing stuff, that's kind of the same stages you go through. You go through a planning phase, when you have a contest, something you want to accomplish, and then you do a recon. What do I have to do?
Yeah, see the goal.
To do it, then what's my strategy? And then practice and then execution, Yeah. I mean, it's all tight.
It's funny, I talked about this before, how things, even though they're in different worlds, are kind of the same as far as the approach and the way you get to an end result to be successful.
Yeah.
Rango.
Oh my gosh.
Rango. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we leave? Do you have some wise advice?
Yeah, a few things. Like, I mean, you've heard of the book Sun Tzu, Art of War?
Yeah.
Chinese guy made it. And, I mean, look at Vietnam. They killed us in Vietnam. We're doing conventional warfare, bombing all this stuff, but they were following Sun Tzu's philosophy, like guerrilla warfare, hit and hide, hit, hide, hit, hide. What we did in the Revolutionary War, and by those concepts, whoever uses these Sun Tzu concepts really have the advantage of winning that battle, and that's why, look at how long we lasted. We couldn't do anything. Then we had to pull out at the end anyway. And what I heard, who knows this is a true story or not, but Sun Tzu, that was this Chinese strategist, military strategist name, this one lord came to him, said, I heard about how good you are. And he had another province that was having a bigger army, and they wanted to take over his province. So he hired Sun Tzu. What is the concept? I mean, can you really live up to your reputation? Can you prove it to me? So he has all these women, damsels, all these women escort servants, right? And real pretty, very feminine. He goes, can you train these women to be warriors? He goes, sure. So first day, he starts training them and do this, self-defense, martial arts with swords, and they're giggling, they're laughing, and making jokes about it. So that happened a couple of days in a row. So what he did, there's two women in front. If this is the true story, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, who knows what in history. So the next day they start giggling, laughing again. He spins around, takes his sword, and he cuts the two first women's heads off.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was going there.
Yeah. And also they, whoa, and it changed completely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
He's
serious. Yeah, serious. That's some serious shit right there.
Oh, yeah.
But
anyway.
I mean, that made it very serious. These giggly women, so like what CARA said, life and death, protecting your young, whatever motivates you to stay alive. And there's been some very submissive, meek people. And look at all these heroes that we don't hear about. You never suspect this little kid would go help these people or do this or jump right in the fire or anything.
Yeah.
That's innate in a lot of people, that warrior mentality, just to protect and save somebody else. I mean, everybody has that, but just what's motivated to pull it out.
Bring it out in you.
What's pulled out the warrior mindset in you? What would you say, like if you were to give somebody advice to have even the smallest mindset that you have, what would it be?
Just like Lee was talking, face yourself and push yourself to unlimited capacities.
Got it.
Do something to challenge, to push yourself, to show you're much stronger internally than you believe you are.
Yeah, like keep reaching to be the full potential of yourself and challenge yourself to do things you don't think you're capable of.
And like Leo did, it could be weight training, it could be lifting a certain weight, accomplishing a certain goal, running a certain distance. I mean, look at, there's a mental thing, like after, with Mount Everest, before it was scaled by Tenzing Norgay and Hillary with 53, I think, There's hundreds of guys. Germans tried. They want to be the first. Tons of people tried. But when nobody made it, when those two made it, then everybody started making it to the top of Everest. It's like, oh, wow, look, it's humanly possible.
It can
Same
be
thing
done.
with, what's his name, with the 4-minute mile. When he broke that, everybody started breaking it.
Interesting.
It's
You know,
mental.
how I can relate to that a little bit is because what you're basically saying for me is learning how to push yourself to be uncomfortable and to eventually be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yes.
When I had my strokes, the biggest thing that I was afraid of that would keep me more in prison than I was and especially early on, was if I couldn't travel again and couldn't do the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I remember that first time that I drove to San Francisco just a few months after I had it, because I was panicking actually while I was driving. What if I have one right now? But the fact that I stood with it, I was able to talk my way through that.
Yeah.
And that was a turning point for me. So I guess that's the kind of stuff that you're talking about. You have to learn how to face your fear and the fact that in my case that it could happen again, and then what? But that if that paralyzes you right there, then you're done. You can't keep moving forward. I mean, it's the same way like in military life.
Exactly. Totally.
In those situations.
Yeah.
Anyway. Hey, listen. Go ahead.
Take control. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're going to have to get going here, but I appreciate you coming.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll have to do this again because I feel like we only started in one area of your career life.
I think this could go a lot longer to get down into some deeper stuff, but I think you shared some really good stuff, Rango.
Great.
And we'll do this again sometime, and I'm sure CARA will have a whole host of questions for you.
I'll be a blonde next time.
A blonde?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Hopefully you change your voice.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure, guys. Real honor being here.
All right, man.
Sharing this. Okay.
Ciao.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.